Hello, good morning. Thank you for watching The Sweat presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Lotzia, NHL, NBA, college football, the DFS side of Sunday's NFL slate. That's all on the menu today. And so are beefy NFL bets on the DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings contributors, by the way, Jeff Forward, Pierce Dietrich, RotoWire's Alan Soslowski, they are all here to share with you their favorite bets for this weekend. Your team to cover the spread. Favorite one, Jeffrey. Who is it?
I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit here. I'm just going to go with the Miami Dolphins. On top of just the Dolphins being on a big win streak here, we've also got the shadow of Mike Glennon possibly looming over this game, which obviously would be massive news. But it's interesting. This line has moved from -3 to -4.5, but this isn't a hugely public bet with the Miami Dolphins. The main thing here is, and there just seems to be a wide gap in talent on the defensive side. The Miami Dolphins defense has been perhaps the best unit on either side of the ball in the NFL over the last month. This is a team that's averaging over 4 sacks per game. Their turnover rate, they have like 10 turnovers over the last 4 games as well. They've shot from the bottom of the league into the top 10 of the league in that category as well. It's a team that's healthy. They've got Tua playing well. He's being very efficient, not turning the ball over as much on offense. And then you've got a Giants team who can't run the ball. They're bottom 10 in rush attempts per game. They're bottom 10 in terms of yards per attempt per game. Daniel Jones injured, not practicing, or Mike Glennon dropping back 35 plus times. The Dolphins defense is going to go off. They may not even need to score the ball here. I think that this line should be closer to -6. And I think even at -4.5, you got to love the Dolphins.
Yeah, man, absolutely. What about you, Pierce?
I'm good with the Bengals -3. I imagine a lot of people think this is a trap. I don't think it's a trap at all. I'm not a big fan of the Chargers. Chargers offensive line started 3 backups last week. That resulted in a 29% pressure rate for Justin Herbert, worst of the season. Got sacked 3 times, worst of the season. And the Broncos didn't blitz him hardly at all. Just 6 blitzes the whole game. Cincinnati doesn't have a great pass rush. They have a good pass rush. But similar to Denver, they don't blitz a lot, and they're still able to get pressure on the quarterback. Very similar recipe. I imagine they'll just replicate what they already do, which is what Denver did, and it worked. And also, without those linemen, the Chargers had a real hard time running against Denver, and Denver has the 26th ranked run DVOA. Cincinnati has the 9th best run DVOA. If that line is still not healthy, they're not going to be able to run. They're not going to be able to protect Herbert. I don't see much coming from this offense. And on the other side, Cincinnati's offense, we've talked about them all season. Over the last 5 of the last 6 games, they scored 32 points. I have no problem marking them with 32 points in this matchup. They're just going to run all over the Chargers like everybody else. The Chargers will take away the deep pass. They'll take away Jamar Chase, but they cannot, and it's because of their system, take away the run. Mixon should run all over these guys. You also have Cincinnati, possibly bad weather.
Yep.
I think this is an easy one.
Yeah, LA has not been the safest bet as of late either. Alan, how about you, man?
I always get nervous when we have a consensus, but the Dolphins, it seemed to be the play. That's the one that popped off the screen to me. The Dolphins have the lowest implied team total of any of the favorite teams. The spread, what we say, is around 4.5 right now in the DK Sportsbook. The Dolphins have an implied team total of less than 23 points, but the Giants are usually fun to bet on when they're underdogs, which is most of the time. But the Dolphins are like a mini Patriots right now. They get better as the year goes on. And with Daniel Jones iffy to play, Mike Glennon is a below average backup, as Jeff mentioned before, a poor man's Chase Daniel. The easy play here is the Dolphins.
Pierce, what about an underdog outright? Who you like on Week 13 slate?
Well, I doubt we're going to have any consensus here, and I'm going to go with the Jets. I know this feels like a terrible play, but when you're taking an underdog outright, it's always going to feel like a terrible play. And admittedly, all the pieces in my equation don't add up, and I can't realistically, rationally put it all together. But I'm going to stick with it. And the one thing that I do like is Jalen Hurts is dealing with injury, and the injury was enough that we think that Gardner Minshew might play. And if that's the case, that's a pretty. Well, is he going to play?
No. I'm saying if Gardner Minshew plays, like there's no way the Jets are beating the Eagles. I'm sorry.
You mentioned Gardner Minshew, Pierce, so Emerson's heart rate went up about 100 beats per
minute. I'm sweating.
Jacksonville, great for all of 2 games. Yeah, but so if Hurts is injured that much, he's not going to be able to run. And if he can't run, I mean, that's the biggest aspect of this Philadelphia offense. You take the run away with Jalen Hurts, what are they going to do? You're going to let him pass? He's looked terrible passing in his short career. He looked terrible passing last week. And you've got Miles Sanders is not 100%. Boston Scott didn't practice yesterday. Jordan Howard didn't practice the other day. Now, the problem with this is I can tell you why the Eagles might play bad, but I can't explain why the Jets are going to turn it on. But in my defense, how many Mondays have we come on here and we were shocked that about the opposite happened, and we had rationally and logically put the pieces together and explain what was going to happen, and then on Monday it was completely the opposite. So who would be surprised that a garbage Philadelphia team loses to a garbage Jets team? No one.
The Eagles were a dud in Week 12. You would think by Week 13 we have learned our lesson. Like, don't be surprised by anything that happens this season around the NFL. Alan, what do you like here? Underdog, you like outright?
My colleague at RotoWire, Chris Liss, just probably passed out as he has the Eagles in his $6 million survivor pool. He's one of 28 people left of 6,000 entries. And he took the Eagles. So please, I'm not going to let him see this broadcast, or else he'll literally won't sleep for the rest of the weekend. For my underdog outright, I like the Pats. They're 8-4 against the spread this season. They look like a freight train, winning 6 games straight. They are, I believe, right now, what is they, a 3-point dog? It was fluctuating between 2.5 and 3.
Yeah, 2.5.
Yeah, so they beat up on bad teams and compromised teams like Tennessee, who are clawless without their stars. This is a great yardstick game for New England, and this is where Bill Belichick earns his money and his reputation. They seem like the obvious money line play to me this week. I like them straight up.
Okay, what do you like? Who do you like, Jeffrey? Talk to me, dude.
I mean, look, I'm very tempted to match Pierce's Jets by making a Lions call, who I almost took on my against the spread call, but I'm going to make. I mean, this might be just as bad, but, you have that person you just keep going back to sometimes in life. They just keep hurting you, but you can't stop. I'm going back to the Seattle Seahawks this week. At plus 150, I just think this number is an overreaction in the market. Yes, Seattle is not a good team. We've established that. Russell Wilson not on the top of his game. Everybody wants DK Metcalf to get the ball. This team should not be plus 3.5 at home versus San Francisco. San Francisco, is not that good. They're better, but they're not that good. They're going to be without Deebo Samuel here. And if I asked you this question, Emerson, who the best team after a loss, best team straight up after a loss was since 2012 in the NFL, what do you think the answer would be?
I would go with the Seattle Seahawks.
It is the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah!
They are 37-14 after a loss straight up since 2012. I get it. Like, this is a different Seattle Seahawks team.
Yeah,
this is
huge.
a division game. Also, Russell Wilson 5-2 against the San Francisco 49ers since 2018. I think you got to take the plus 150 here. Russ bounces back. It's a good matchup for DK Metcalf as well. I think Seattle plus 150 gives you good value.
We've been saying for the past 3-4 weeks, so this is a good matchup for DK Metcalf. And Russ will finally right the ship. He's looked awful the past couple weeks.
You can take me to the Seahawks intervention group if this one doesn't work out.
And the Seahawks have the worst pass defense in the league. And I feel like Jimmy G can work with that, even if, Deebo Samuel's going to be missing a little bit of time here. Let's go to, Jeff, start me out here, a game to go over, because you are the king of overs here on the Sweat.
Well, I'm glad we got to talk about this, because I didn't get to talk about this game earlier in the week, but I love the Chargers and Bengals for an over here, man. I mean, 50.5, I'm actually surprised this one hasn't moved. Maybe it will by game time, but you've got 2 studly quarterbacks here playing really good football. You've got, and the thing is, the offenses here are the good units. The defenses are the ones we want to attack. Pierce already mentioned the Chargers' deficiencies against the ground. Joe Mixon is going to tear up this Chargers defense. Joe Burrow looking healthier every week. But on the other side of the ball, the Bengals have given up 8.5 yards per attempt. They've struggled with some veteran receivers like Devontae Adams this year. I think Keenan Allen is going to have a massive game here too. Fast-paced team in the Chargers who throw the ball a lot. And again, the Bengals offense, they've scored 73 points the last 2 weeks. I think this game has all the makings of a great shootout between 2 great quarterbacks. Give me the over on the Chargers and Bengals.
Yeah, man, that's a beefy one. 50.5 right now, tied with the Bucs and Falcons for highest on the slate. Pierce, what about you, dude?
Baltimore and Pittsburgh, we've talked a lot about this week. Go back and watch the videos on YouTube. I'm not going to continue to break down why I think we're overreacting to Lamar Jackson. But if you think that Lamar Jackson is having trouble or he's not 100%, that's fine. But this matchup should make him be pretty healthy. He's facing one of the worst rush defenses, one of the worst pass defenses, and Pittsburgh's not 100% healthy either. I have no doubt in my mind that Baltimore and Lamar Jackson are going to put points on the board. Now, the other side, is Ben Roethlisberger. A lot more question marks here, but in garbage time, you can get it done. Got it done last week. But there's a chance that they could stay in this game. Baltimore's pass defense, we talked about it all season. We mentioned it last season. It's not that great. It's gotten worse. They could be healthy in this game, so that's something to keep your eye on. But against a man-to-man defense that allows a lot of big explosive plays, Pittsburgh can hit those big explosive plays. They have done that, and that can result in points. And I like the over in the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game.
I feel like both of those offenses have been hard to trust over the past few weeks. What about you, Alan? Give me a game you like to go over, please.
We just talked about San Francisco and Seattle at 46.5. I like the over there. The public is off Wilson, and they think Seattle is bad, which may be true if Russell Wilson can't throw the football right now. But the temperature is really starting to boil up on the lack of DK Metcalf usage. It's the media attention is starting to focus on it. Metcalf has been getting double teamed regularly, but he is the rare wide receiver that doesn't even need to be open in order to complete a pass to him. I just saw a player note that was said from the offensive coordinator, Sal, that we need to get Metcalf the ball more. Brilliant strategy. What's his next revelation? That water's wet? It's ridiculous. This is I'm seeing heavy action on San Francisco on this one, but I really like this as a little sneaky shootout.
Yeah, man. These two teams played to just under that 52-point total. What was that back in week 4, 28-21, a Seattle victory. Okay, let's go game to go under, Alan. Which one are you most confident in?
Sorry, Jeff, but I like the Chargers and Bengals as an under 50.5. This is going to be a popular stack and run back in DFS, chasing that big total. But the Bengals have the reputation as a shootout team with Burrow and those flashy wide receivers. The 3 games prior to their Week 10 bye, they had Burrow was averaging around 37 pass attempts per game. In the 2 games since the bye, Burrow is only averaging 26 pass attempts. The Bengals have become that cold weather run team behind Joe Mixon. Mark this game down as a 24-21 finish. I like the under.
Yeah, this quarterback matchup, that sounds sexy, real sexy, right? But yeah, it could be a grinder of a game, Jeff. What would you like to say to that?
Well, I mean, I thought Alan and I were friends, but I guess not. No, that's fair. Okay, so as far as unders go, I mean, I can't get away from the under on the Tampa Bay Atlanta game. I get it. I mean, you've got 2 teams that like to pass the ball, and Atlanta tends to get in some of these crazy games, but how are they going to score? I just do not see how Atlanta scores against this Tampa Bay defense. Such a good defensive line, bringing good pressure. Matt Ryan and the Falcons, they scored 21 points against the Jaguars, but their last 2 games they scored 3 points. It's 24 points over the last 3 games. I think Tampa Bay's defense just dominates this game from start to finish. And I think the Bucs, they probably put up 30, but they get up so fast that they run the clock out. So I think 50.5, just too big a total here. I like the under in that one.
Yeah, no reason to really believe their offense will muster much of anything on Sunday. Let's go, Pierce. Give me a game that you're confident is going to go under.
I'm on the same game. I just don't see Atlanta doing anything. And I think Jeff probably could have emphasized 21 points versus Jaguars. That's really not very good. You should score a lot more points against I'm sorry, Emerson, but 21 points against Jacksonville. If you're a decent offense, you put more points on the board. But they don't have a decent offense. They don't have much of an offensive line. Pitts is their number 1 receiver, to give you any idea of what they're dealing with. He's a good tight end. He will be good someday, but he is not a good number 1 wide receiver. He's not a good number 1 wide receiver when he has to line up against cornerbacks. You can only, push Cordero Patterson so far. You're going to run him in between the tackles against Tampa. Probably not going to work. They've had success with that against other teams. That's not going to work on Sunday against Tampa. I don't see them scoring points. And on the flip side, I also, and I've been saying this all season, Tampa needs to take it easy. You don't need 40 dropbacks from Tom Brady. You don't need Rob Gronkowski to run 40 routes. You don't need Chris Godwin to run 40 routes. Give the ball to Fournette like they did last week. Give the ball to Jones like they did last week and take the win.
The Falcons should have went out there and grabbed Adrian Peterson. That's what the Falcons should have done. Run a little tight on time. There's also not a whole lot of player props like out there, but give me one maybe early on, Pierce, that you have your eye on.
I'll make it real quick, and this goes contrary to what these guys are saying. Russell Wilson, under 229.5 passing yards. It's over. It's done. He should go get it. Maybe he can be a middle reliever for the Colorado Rockies, but his NFL career is toast.
All right, Alan, player prop.
This goes hand in hand with my Bengals and Chargers under. I think Joe Burrow under 248.5 passing yards. As I mentioned earlier, has been averaging only about 26 attempts per game, 170 passing yards per game. Take the under on Burrow passing yards.
Jeff, talk to me. Bring us home.
I would really watch for the Antonio Gibson props to come out. I really like the overs and all his are probably going to like, assuming they're reasonable. But the one that's up right now I like is Keenan Allen over 6.5 receptions. When this game is 40-37 and I'm laughing at Allen on Twitter, Keenan Allen's going to have like 12 receptions in this game.
Death, taxes, and Jeff Ulrich just hammering overs like throughout his entire life. You three hang out. We'll do that DFS thing for Sunday coming up. Right now, though, we got the Unreasonable Odds podcast breaking down conference championship weekend in college football, starting with the showdown between number 1 Georgia and number 4 Alabama.
Either Alabama's going to shock the world and stay right in it, or Georgia's going to blow them out.
We're going to find, I mean, Georgia has not, when I say they haven't been tested, that is an understatement. I mean, they have rolled through everybody. And the thing that I take away from it the most, you can say, you know what? Okay, well, Georgia plays on the other side. And besides Kentucky, I don't think there's a ton of great teams. Well, they did have a couple common opponents, Auburn and Arkansas. Alabama, yeah, they got through Arkansas. They almost lost to Auburn. Georgia, when I say dismantled, 37-0 against Arkansas, 34-10 against Auburn on the road.
Yep.
Georgia's just a different gear. They have like 4 or 5 running backs. Stetson Bennett's way better than I thought he was. And they have the best defense in the country by a long margin. So
Alabama doesn't have a running back. Like
no.
they've gotten by with all their Najee Harris's, Derrick Henry's, like big physical running backs. Brian Robinson's pretty solid. He's hurt. He's probably not even going to play. Like
they need Bryce Young to run. I don't know why he's so hesitant to not move. He clearly can. I don't see in a game like this that they can rely just on these guys on the outside. I think that Georgia is going to get on top and really put the heat on them. I laid the points. I laid the 6.
Yeah, I mean, pains me, but that's probably what I'm going to do.
I think that Bama, not to talk playoff too much, but like, what do you think happens in that if Bama just loses a generic game? Are they out?
Probably. I want them to be in, and everybody else is so bad that you like maybe can make the case they should be in, but I think they might be a top 4 team, but they just kind of aren't good enough. There's other more deserving teams, I guess, on the resume. It's a tough call.
And you can't put them at the problem. I think like they can't put them at 4 because then they just have to play Georgia. They're never going to do that.
So then you have to put them at 3, and 3 is going to be overranking them.
Yeah.
And so what are you going to put a 2-win team at 3 and an undefeated team at 4 and serve up Cincinnati to get swallowed alive? Like that's pretty rude to Cincinnati. Like it's tough. Georgia's going to be 1. We'll see what happens after that. We'll see what happens after that. Speaking of Cincinnati and getting in, -450 on the money line to have the undefeated season. 10.5 points, though. I haven't bet this game. I might bet Houston at 10.5 if I bet this game. This is probably the dog that interests me the most on the board. Houston's been really good, and Cincinnati's going to have a lot of pressure on it in this game. And down the stretch, they haven't really been winning games as big as you would want them to feel comfortable about them. So this is going to be Houston plus 10.5 or pass for me.
It's going to be Houston plus 10.5. It's going to be Houston money line, small units. I think that Houston has a real shot here. This is a team, they lost the opener. They were up at halftime and they did not score in the second half against Texas Tech. They have not lost since. 11 straight wins. They've looked fantastic. Clayton Tune knows what he's doing under center. They've got guys on the outside. They've got running backs, and they have serious guys on the front. And the one thing that Cincinnati really struggles with is pass protection. I know Ritter can diffuse that because he can move. I think this is going to be a very close game. I hope Cincinnati wins, and I do think they're the more talented team. 10.5 is too much, though. I think that Cincinnati has struggled with a lot of inferior opponents. I think there's a real argument that this could be close to the best team that they've played this year. And yes, I know they've played Notre Dame. Houston is a very good team
Notre
by
Dame,
far.
those frauds.
Yeah, get them out of here.
I like the new coach, but Notre Dame's just always a fraud in my mind.
Preach. I think Houston is really going to test them in a lot of ways that they haven't seen this year.
All right, I'm with you. I haven't bet it. I'll just make that a bet. I knew I was going to bet it. I don't know what I'm waiting for.
Yeah, 10.5 was good enough for me.
Yeah. All right, another 10.5 point spread in the Big Ten. We have Ohio State a touchdown favorite. We have Wisconsin a touchdown favorite. That's going to be the conference championship game. So of course we get Michigan and Iowa. Michigan wins this game and they're in. It's as simple as that. I think they win. 10.5 is a bit much for me. I think they're going to feel the pressure in this spot, but I don't know if I can bet on that Iowa offense. This is probably a pass for me, but I know it's really juicy. If you want to build a parlay, Michigan minus 450 is your piece to like get something down, more of a 4, 5, 6 point favorite. Like if you like Oklahoma State, if you like San Diego State, a team like that, you get them down to win the game by taking Michigan to win the game. That's the way I'm looking at this. Nothing on the spread for me.
I did just that with Georgia, actually. Like Georgia and Michigan to win the game. I don't see how Iowa can score. I don't want to lay 10.5 with a 43-point total. That's a pretty narrow window, but I just think Michigan ultimately, they're going to run the ball. Iowa can't do anything. They're using 2 quarterbacks. That just shows you how bad it is for them. Yes, they've won 4 straight. Northwestern by 5, Minnesota by 5, Illinois by 10, Nebraska by 7. That is not anything like Michigan. I think Michigan beats them, but I don't want to lay 10.5.
Let's talk basketball, everybody. And here to help is DK Live editor Chirag Hira. We are chasing or fading the following DFS or sportsbook plays on tonight's 9-game NBA slate. So chase or fade for me here first. The Thunder should be demoted to the G League after they lost by 73 points to Memphis, the worst margin of defeat in NBA history, Chirag.
I'm going to fade that just because they are potentially tanking. SGA was not playing last night. This team, Josh Giddey was also out. So I think that the way that they're constructed, they just don't have a lot of talent. And if they get the number 1 pick, they will. So can't relegate them to G League. But it was an interesting matchup of old teams that moved. So who would you rather have, the old Vancouver Grizzlies or the old Seattle Supersonics? I think we got the Vancouver Grizzlies. Better now.
I want the team that's not losing by 73 points. That's the team I want. As for tonight, dude, we got 5 players above 11K. So all of them are point guards except Kevin Durant at 11.4. So I need you to tell me who you would chase in that group first.
Well, there's a lot of options here because we have to consider that we might have a potential KD rest night because they're playing against the Bulls tomorrow, whereas this game against the Timberwolves is not as hype. We also have to take into consideration there's Luka Doncic, who just came off an historic game against the Pelicans, and they're playing the Pelicans again. So there's a lot of options here, but my favorite guy to chase up here, Steph Curry. I think he's the most expensive player and going to have the lowest ownership because of that abysmal game, 4 for 21 against the Suns. I believe this game in San Francisco makes him the better option. He's going to come out, shoot the lights out, and be able to be the superstar of the night. Yeah,
averaging north of 51 DK fantasy points a game here. Again, you mentioned it. He's the most expensive player on this slate. So in that group, though, of all the pricey players, who would you fade in all those options?
The guy to fade for me has to be Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
$11,000. LeBron's going to be coming back. His price got bumped up because LeBron was out with something fishy. So now that the fishiness has gone away, Russell Westbrook's the guy I would not be playing at $11,000. His impact is very, very erratic. And with LeBron back in the lineup, it just makes too much sense to go in another direction. But keep in mind, AD is questionable. So it's not totally out of the way, but that's the guy out of the expensive players that I'm looking to fade.
How do you like that Westbrook experience out there in LA right now? Because I know you're a Lakers guy. It's been interesting to watch.
I've been fine with it.
Yeah.
I just think that we need more shooting, more defense. There's just a bunch of guys that want to play offense. Nobody wants to get back on defense. So that's the biggest issue. But the thing is, you needed a guy like Westbrook because we knew LeBron was going to be missing a handful of games. AD is going to be missing games. So you needed that just guy that can go out there and get a triple-double, drop 30 points, do whatever at the drop of a hat to stay games competitive. But it's just the defense that's lacking.
Yeah, and turn the ball over 12 times a game. That's tough to do as well. Net center Lamarcus Aldridge, he has people's attention right now because he's been a solid value play of late here, Chirag. But his price is on the rise, like Mojo Rising, kicking off the month, low salary of $4,000 on these big slates tonight. He's $2,000 more. You still chasing him as a solid value player? You want to fade him in favor of someone else? You're shaking your head no.
No, I have to consider fading him in this scenario because he's $6,000. So is he going to drop 40 or 50 fantasy points? I do not believe so. The minutes don't provide it there. He's not a player that's going to go out there, play 32 to 36 minutes. And at 6,000 at 30 fantasy points, you're like, okay, thanks. There's other guys in this price range. Daniel Gafford, been a monster over the last 5 games, dropping 40 points easily. We have this injury to Bam Adebayo. So now Dwayne Dedmon's of option as well. Also, the Lakers making a lineup change. Frank Vogel already mentioned it. 3,700. Dwight Howard's going to be starting. So there's 3 centers that are already cheaper than Lamarcus Aldridge here. So I just can't chase that high of a salary for a guy that's not going to give me as much upside, whereas these other players have much more upside and are much cheaper.
All right, I do want to go back to LA real quick because LeBron James, you mentioned it. He implied in a tweet that it was fishy that he had to miss 4 games over a 10-day stretch there in the NBA's COVID-19 protocol. And he appears to have been vindicated. He's expected to play tonight against the Crosstown Clippers. He'll also cost you 10-4, Chirac. So chase or fade that it is a LeBron night tonight.
I'm a little bit worried because of the fact, if you look at the game log over the last 3 games, the only game that LeBron really played well was in their last game, which was not an overtime. So they went to triple overtime against the Kings. They went to overtime in their previous game, and the only game he played really well was against the Pistons. Yes, the Clippers aren't as bad as the Pistons, and they aren't as good as like the Suns or the Warriors, but they just have a robust team, good length on the wings, and I just feel like it's really difficult to sit here and say, hey, jamming LeBron, he's been recovered when there's other bigger, better options on the slate. So he's viable. I would consider him for a showdown or a late slate, because if you look at the late slate games, everyone's going to go to Curry or these other guys. So I think he makes some sense there, especially if AD is out. So he's questionable. So that's the biggest part of the news here. This is a 10 o'clock game, so we are unlikely to get the information before the game starts about AD being in or out. So that's an option to consider. If AD is out, then you definitely want to consider LeBron.
Yeah, it's just been a rough season for him so far, between injuries, most notably that abdominal strain, then he had the scuffle, the suspension. He's missed 12 of the Lakers' 23 games this season. Let's go over to the DraftKings Sportsbook, though, before you take off. No one is favored by 72.5 points tonight. I still can't believe that the Grizzlies actually covered against OKC. Give us a team, though, you'd like to cover on tonight's slate.
I like the Hawks. They've been playing really well over the last couple games. Yes, Joel Embiid has returned for the Sixers, but I just don't think they've found their groove. Tyrese Maxey now having an issue being that main primary facilitator. Seth Curry playing really well, but look at this line. -1, basically a coin flip saying the Hawks at home are going to win. I just think that they're just playing really exceptional. They've won, I think, 7 of their last 8 games and covered a spread in most of them. So I just like a 1-point spread, basically just saying I would pick the Hawks on the money line.
All right, how about a game total you're chasing? Either over or under. Which one are you confident in?
There's been a lot of talk this year about the NBA being an unders league. The DK Sportsbook has kind of adjusted to that, but I still think that this game against the Magic and the Rockets is a spot to attack. Both teams ranking at the bottom of the league in offensive efficiency. Yes, they're also towards the bottom of the league in defensive efficiency, so that means that players can score against these defenses. I just think that there's just way too much variance on these teams. Both basically lottery teams, injured up and down the roster. I just don't think they have enough offense to get over this total.
And bring us home with your slate-approved pick. You're lock in right now, your favorite bet or DFS play tonight that people need to follow.
I don't know what it is, but there's just something telling me that Steph Curry is going to have a night tonight. And I think Warriors double digits win tonight. It's a gut feeling. Cameron Payne is a decent replacement for Devin Booker. He's out of the lineup, but Cam Payne should step up. But I just think the Warriors are going to show out tonight and win by double digits.
All right, Chirag, you bring us mucho joy, but so do the Sultans of Sticky Puck. AJ and Paul are here to help us with tonight's NHL slate right after this quick break. We are working with a 5-game NHL slate tonight, and the riveting RotoWire duo of AJ Scholes and Paul Bruno are here to take us on a majestic journey through their favorite DFS and sportsbook plays. So, AJ, who's your favorite skater to pay up for?
Well, I'm going to look outside the Edmonton duo only because we've just talked about them all the time. And you could make an argument, even with both of them coming at over 9,000 to use them. Like, the argument's there to be made at that heavy price tag. So outside of those guys, I really like Max Pacioretty tonight at 7,300. He's on a 3-game point streak since returning from injury, including a goal and an assist on the power play. You know, Arizona is going to roll with Vejmelka tonight, who has been actually good in his last 2 outings. But we should look at the early part of the season when he's playing a bit of a heavier load, went winless in 12 straight games. I think it's a good opportunity to stack the Golden Knights tonight.
Yeah, Paul, I'm looking at the salaries here. McDavid, Draisaitl above 9K. Then there's that big drop-off to Kyle Connor at 7.9.
You know what, Emerson? Yesterday, my partner and I were in sync on a Florida stack, and it paid off for all our listeners. And today, we're in sync on the Vegas thing. But let me also talk about that Seattle-Edmonton game. The Oilers make their first ever visit to the home of the Kraken tonight, and I say, no way do I go after them because I expect the visitors to be without 4 regular defensemen. So I'm giving the hardworking home side a real shot here to not only hold the Edmonton Oilers in check, but maybe even win the game. So I'm not going to touch the Edmonton big guns, but I'm all over the Golden Knights, as AJ suggested. This is definitely a true stack opportunity for me. They face an offensively challenged Arizona club that's only scored 13 goals in the last 7 games, and we have seen the return of Mark Stone. He's priced at $5,800, and Max Pacioretty priced at $7,300 to their first line roles after spending time on the IR recently, and both of them came back and are scoring a cartload of points. And paired with Chandler Stevenson, who's been almost a point a game guy without them in your lineup, Stevenson comes in at $5,100. That's a pretty cheap stack for their top line, and I think they're going to have a big night against a vulnerable opponent.
Favorite DFS value play? Who is it, Paul?
Well, Calgary's on a California trip, and they have often stumbled out there on the left coast in recent years. And tonight they face a very different-looking Anaheim club that's been pairing a stingy defense with a much better offense than we've seen in recent seasons. So I really like the home side tonight, and I also factor in the fact that the Flames are on a second of back-to-backs. And so I think this is an opportunity to go to the home side and take a look at their top line center who's leading the rookies in scoring this year. That's Trevor Zegras. He's asserted himself as the top 6 forward, and because he's playing on home ice, they've done a real good job of keeping him away from the top checkers opponents bring every night. So he's been a point a game guy at the hottest center, and I say he has a chance to build on that given the matchup tonight, and he's only coming in at $4,300. So I think it's a great value there. Another cheap but productive player that I'm also considering is the Devils' Andreas Johnson, who costs only $3,700, despite the fact he scored 9 points in his last 10 games. And he's finally getting a run on a scoring line situation. I haven't seen this for him since he's turned pro, and I'm happy to see it because this guy's an uber skilled player, and confidence is such a big part of his game, and he's playing at the top of his level right now. And I say he continues this streak against the Devils tonight.
AJ, need some value.
Well, in addition to that Golden Knights game, I actually really like the Rangers matchup tonight with San Jose. The Sharks played last night, so they're going to be a little bit tired, obviously. So I'm going to go heavy on New York, and that includes Alexis Lafreniere at 2,700. You know, his production this year has been spotty at best. That's why he's so cheap. But he's still seeing opportunities with that number 2 power play group. I wish the shot total was a little bit higher, so he doesn't really have a floor. So you're really, really just playing the matchup here. But at under 3K, I think it's a good spot to be in.
All right, dudes. Puck line or money line bet tonight? AJ, start us off.
Well, I'm going to look at the puck line here. You can snag Edmonton to cover at plus 180. I know Paul mentioned the problems on defense there, but that's just too good of value to get on a team that is that high-powered in terms of the offense. I'm really not sure why on the money line you're seeing Edmonton at only minus 130 against Seattle. I really think that should be further apart. So for me, to get plus 180 on the Oilers to cover is just too good a value to pass up.
Okay, you got any good value that's too good to pass up, Paul?
Well, I think I got to take a bet with AJ to win some value there. But I spoke of the vulnerability of the Oilers missing so many key guys in their blue line, and I don't trust their goalies. So it shouldn't surprise you that I think that Seattle has a real shot to win this game, and I'm going to go to the plus 110 bet for them tonight. And similarly, I like the Ducks to hold off the Flames. I made that case earlier, and it's the second of back-to-backs for the visitors. So I take another home dog to win here as well and pay off at plus 105.
Game total, Paul.
Oh, this is the stuff that I love. You know it, Emerson. I see the Knights going off in Arizona tonight, so I go to my favorite prop, the alternate goal line of over 6.5 goals for a 125 payout. I just expect the big guns to fire early and often against the suspect defense and goaltending of the hapless Coyotes. And I feel similarly about a high-scoring affair in Anaheim with these prolific offenses, both averaging more than 3.25 goals per game. So I take my chances, and I think they're going to trade chances tonight. So I go to the alternate line again for that prop of 6.5. I think it's going to go over that number for a 135 payoff there as well.
Okay, AJ, need a game total.
Yeah, the Rangers have really utilized Igor Shesterkin to a lot of success this year, but with the talent on offense they have, I think 5.5 in that game is just too low. So I'll take the over here at minus 105. I also think it's worth looking at Edmonton on the over pretty much every single night. I mean, especially if you're with Paul and think that, Seattle's going to be in this game, then they almost have to be heavy offense to match up with Edmonton. So the total sitting at 6, you can play the push if you want, or look at the alternate lines. I will mention, if you're with me and not Paul on Edmonton winning this one, you can look at the game parlays, can get Edmonton to cover that puck line and go over 6.5 at plus 475. That's really good value. Paul, I'll take that bet with you, but I don't take loonies. I only take American dollars here.
Oh, love it. So, AJ, let's see how you're feeling about a player prop.
Well, I mean, I'll start by mentioning Lafreniere. Like, if you're going to use him in DFS, you can get him at plus 270 tonight. Might as well. And then same strategy with Max Pacioretty. Like, I really think this is a good spot for him to pick up a goal here. He's plus 140. But really, that would just be my general recommendation to everybody out there. If you're going to use a guy in DFS, you might as well look at him on the goal total props as well.
Paul, which player prop you putting a bunch of loonies on, dude?
I started off today by highlighting the DFS stack on the Knights top line in Arizona tonight. So I'm going to go back to that well and picking Max Pacioretty and Mark Stone as two of my favorites to score a goal and pay off at plus 140 and plus 200 respectively. And I don't always do this, but I'm going to take a shot at a guy who's been in a slump. I'm also going to suggest Mika Zibanejad of the Rangers, who's been among the league's top goal scorers for the last couple of years. He's mired in a 10-game goalless slide, and I think I'm going to sprinkle some Stardust on him and see that he gets a goal against San Jose and pays off at plus 125.
Gentlemen, amazing work. Enjoy the weekend, please. Who to open the wallet for this Sunday around the NFL is coming up right after Pat Mayo discusses his running back rankings for Week 13 with Jake Seeley of The Athletic.
we've seen high-end running backs torch the Bills so far. We saw Jonathan Taylor do it. We saw Derrick Henry do it. Everyone else in the league has been poor against the Bills on the ground. So I know that the New England Patriots have an excellent running game as a collection. How they will individually do against this defense, I really don't know. I'm not from the future, Jake. I don't know these things. But if it does become into a situation where they have to pass, then it's probably going to be Bolden a lot of the time.
I tell you what, that'd be nice. Just one day into the future, just one give me a Monday and just know everything that happened on Sunday. That'd be wonderful. I'm with you. I think this is going to be a curious, messy type of situation that's going to be tough to predict. Maybe they just lean into Damian Harris because he's the best all around, but Stevenson has shown passing game chops better than anybody expected, myself included, coming out of college. And maybe he's the pass catcher and it's not Bolden in this game. It wouldn't shock me. I don't think that's how it would work as you have. But hey, this is the Patriots. This is what we've signed up for years on end with the Patriots. Earlier this year, we were happy because it was Damian Harris, and now we're back to being the Patriots and not being able to predict it week in and week out. I would have Harris, and then after that, yeah. And where did you have Harris? You didn't have Harris that much higher.
I had Harris at number 19.
19? I think I'd play him behind. I'd play him behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even against Denver.
I don't know if I'll go that
only because of the uncertainty. It's just the uncertainty, because I would go with, as you mentioned, we talked about the Denver guys. We talked about the Broncos guys. Even in those, at least with those splits, it's 50-50, both of them. And there's not another person really involved. With Harris, he could, no, I don't think it. And I wouldn't project it. And there's no way I would say Harris will be the third option. But if Harris was the third option, that's a conceivable outcome with the Patriots this week. That's just how this team is. So just for me personally, like how I would feel confidence-wise, and the biggest thing too is you're also waiting for Monday Night Football.
Yes, that's always the problem when it comes to these Monday Night Football. At least we know that he's playing, so that will be good news. And if there's one New England running back that I would pencil in to score a touchdown, it's probably Damian Harris.
Yeah. And I think that's the best odds there. But as you said, it might be Brandon Bolden the best odds to catch the most and have 5 or 6 receptions, and they just turn to him instead of using Harris in the passing game. It's just the Patriots. The Patriots are back to being the Patriots, unfortunately.
Jamal Williams, if Swift doesn't play, DeAndre Swift, how high does he go up? Like, do you trust Jamal Williams? Because it's almost like trusting Tony Jones Jr. against the Bills. Didn't really work out.
No, it's not that bad. We've seen Jamal Williams, and the thing is why I hesitated to say I don't trust Jamal Williams. It has nothing to do with Jamal Williams, the player. Jamal Williams has proved to be top 15 when he's called upon, and that doesn't even involve 25 touches, just 18 as the workhorse. The question is Jamal Williams right now even 100%? And if Jamar Jefferson is fine, Jamar Jefferson showed a little bit of burst in his opportunity earlier this year before he got hurt as well. So Jamal Williams would go up to, I'd probably put him in that mix with the Dallas and Denver guys. I wouldn't put him much higher because, hey, you run against the Giants, and Myles Gaskin has been the answer there, and he's been the answer for weeks, although I keep waiting for us to get screwed over by it. But, hey, look, we got the involvement last week with no Duke Johnson because they were in the lead, and the coaching staff even came out and said that's why you didn't see Duke Johnson, because we didn't need the pass. But you saw Lindsey in that game, and still Myles Gaskin dominated. So I'd at least go Gaskin. And then, you know what? Because of the workhorse upside and not worrying about the split with Zeke, I'd probably put him right at 19. But I think Jamar Jefferson would fall into the 30s around Devin Singletary, DJ Dallas type of thing.
Do you worry about the Jets running backs that even in a negative game script that Zach Wilson cannot complete a dump-off pass to a running back? He's incapable of it. It's really strange stuff.
I'm mostly concerned about Ty Johnson. Last week I said, Ty Johnson, if you want the ceiling, I'm going Ty Johnson over Tevin Coleman, hoping that Zach Wilson was going to show some type of capability doing what you just said and throwing to the running backs. He ruined the pass catchers. He ruined Elijah Moore. You were facing the flippin' Texans, and Elijah Moore goes 4 for, was it 47, 46, somewhere around there. Jamison Crowder, almost nothing. Even if Corey Davis is still out, still don't trust Elijah Moore. I don't know we're talking about wide receivers, but I'm just talking encapsulating this team is Zach Wilson destroys this offense. The only person is Tevin Coleman, and you hope it's not a negative game script because, I mean, he would still be the lead, and he would still probably get about 12 carries, but now 12 carries, even at 4 yards a clip, it's just he's barely even an RB3 at that point. So, yeah, Zach Wilson ruined this team. and you can make a case to not start anybody, including Tevin Coleman.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. We're going to wrap things up with some DFS talk around the NFL for Week 13. DraftKings contributors Jeff Ulrich, Pierce Dietrich, RotoWire's Alan Seslowski are back. So, guys, since we talked to you last, DeAndre Swift of the Lions, the running back, has been ruled out with a shoulder injury. So the Lions are going to be hosting the Vikings. And Daniel Jones, quarterback for the Giants, are going to be in Miami on Sunday. He's been ruled out. I think Jeff kind of mentioned that earlier, right? It's like the Mike Glennon game now down in South Beach. So NFL splurge or save. You don't want to be splurging on either one of those guys this weekend. So you're paying up or saving salary at the following positions on this Week 13 main slate. Ulrich, start me out at quarterback, dude.
And all my Daniel Jones, John Ross stacks just out the window now. I can't do that play. I do like another cheap quarterback, though. I think this is a very, very good spot for Tyrod Taylor this week at 5,300. He's been a little bit of a disappointment, maybe since returning from injury. I think some people trying to target him as a cheap option. Hasn't cracked 20 DK fantasy points since week 1, but the rushing has been there. He averaged 15 yards rushing last week. The attempt, so he just looks a little bit healthier. And realistically, it's just the matchup here against the Indianapolis Colts. They're 9-point underdogs. I think you're going to see a lot of that garbage time happen that hasn't happened over the last few games with the Texans. That's just going to lead to a few more rushing attempts. And the Colts, I mean, they're just not that good a pass defense. They've allowed the 5th most yards to opposing quarterbacks, passing yards this season. So I think Tyrod Taylor is going to have a few more pass attempts than people realize. I think he's going to be picking up some more garbage yards. And at 5,300, if this guy gets you 22, 24 points, maybe he finds the end zone. Maybe he makes this game competitive. I think he's very viable at 5,300 this week.
All right, Alan, go ahead and just tell me why you're chasing Mike Glennon on the slate now.
Actually, I like that Tyrod Taylor call. That's pretty sneaky. I'm going to add a couple of those in. I'm paying up for Tom, 7,200. Leonard Fournette had his fun last week, 4 touchdowns. TB12 sees the MVP race is wide open. I'd expect 4 or 5 touchdowns from him, from Brady on Sunday. I really liked Tom Brady to dominate the slate. I'm paying up.
And unlike the Eagles there, I mean, Tampa Bay just keeps passing regardless of the score. And I know that bugged Pierce earlier in this show.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to go with all-neck team all-star Mike Glennon, but I will go with another equally bad quarterback, even probably worse than Tyrod Taylor. Ben Roethlisberger. Well, he gave you 12 points last week in garbage time and probably one of his worst games of his career. 12 points. On the road, he's been notoriously bad. On the road, he's going to be at home, so he's going to be a little bit better. And in garbage time, I would imagine if his worst-case scenario is 12 points, he should be able to get at least 15 points at $5,000. That should work. We mentioned earlier in the show, Baltimore's pass defense, not that great. Man-to-man coverage, can allow some explosive plays. And at this price, you only need a couple of those explosive plays. And then the biggest point here is Pittsburgh can't run the ball. Baltimore can't stop, or Baltimore has a really good run defense. So you're looking at possibly 50 passes for $5,000. I'll take that volume every day.
Dude, I was looking at the Dolphins schedule. So since Halloween, just because Mike Glennon's in the conversation now. Since Halloween, that's when the Dolphins face Josh Allen. They face quarterbacks. It's going to be Mike Glennon, Cam Newton, P.J. Walker, Joe Flacco, Tyrod Taylor. And next week, they're going to get Zach Wilson. So there's a pretty good chance the Dolphins are going to be riding a 6-game win streak following next week. What about at running back? Is there a guy you definitely want to splurge for here, Pierce, or do you feeling like you're going to save at this position?
I'll splurge, but it does seem like some of this value has opened up. But I just don't see how you get away from Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon's in a great spot. Alan talked about this earlier. This is a Bengals team that runs the ball. He could see, the last 2 weeks, they've just fed him big time. But even when Mixon gets 16 or more carries, the Bengals are 7-0. I mean, I'm not the coach there, but I think they probably realize that, hey, when we run the ball with Mixon more, we win games. Their offensive line ranks in the top 10. They've got a dream matchup against a Chargers team that just can't stop the run. It's just not in their DNA. It's not a part of their system. They give up tons of yards per carry. They're the worst in DVOA. 1,300-plus rushing yards this season. Second most touchdowns this season. It's just a dream spot for Mixon, and I have no problem paying this price.
Okay, Alan, what about you? Is there a price you don't mind paying?
Speaking of the necks from we were talking about Glenn, and my neck was nodding yes with that Joe Mixon call. I love that. But I'm shopping in the 6K and below range for my running backs this week. I like James Conner, 5,900 with no Chase Edmonds. Conner's been TD machine, 12 on the season, only second in the NFL to Jonathan Taylor. Even if Kyler Murray's back, and it's looking like he will play, Arizona doesn't want to use him proactively at the goal line when they have their bulldozer James Conner to do the dirty work. That's the player I am rostering in most of my lineups this week.
What do you want to do at running back, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't mind paying up for Joe Mixon. I think that's a solid call. I think Najee Harris is actually going to be a sneaky pay-up option, and we'll be able to pay up for a lot of these guys because when we get to tight end, man, there's a ton of cheap tight ends. But Antonio Gibson at 5,700, I feel like people have just forgotten that he got 36 touches last week. J.D. McKissick has not practiced at all this week, likely going to miss the game. Antonio Gibson going up against the Vegas Raiders rush defense. Yes, sign me up. I know he hasn't been that efficient on the ground, but how does he not push for 25 plus touches here? Washington loves to run the ball. They're 6th in rush attempts per game. Vegas, 11th worst yards per carry rush against. I think Gibson at 5,700 should be the chalk of the week, but he's not really trending like that. Love paying down, up, middle for him, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, we have less than 5 minutes to go in the show, so if you want to get to tight end here, guys, you're going to have to speed it up. Jeff, I'll let you go first at wide receiver. Is this a position you're going to splurge or save?
This will be really easy. We can splurge at wide receiver. Justin Jefferson is 8,200, and he's playing the Detroit Lions. Everyone's going to play Madison. Go with the passing stacks there. I mean, again, it's Justin Jefferson versus Detroit. So.
Yep. Allen.
Brandon Ayuk with Debo out, 5,600, coming off the bus with 7 targets in his pocket. I'm playing him. He could easily see double-digit targets.
All right, Pierce, wide receiver, what you want to do?
Let's save. Has everyone forgot about Josh Reynolds? The guy broke the Thanksgiving slate. He's $3,400. No one is talking about Josh Reynolds. I know Detroit's bad, but this is arguably a better matchup. Minnesota, bottom third of the league when it comes to wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 against slot receivers. You don't really need much at this price. You want to play the golf narrative, fine, or you can just play the narrative. Who else are they going to pass the ball to in a game where they're big dogs?
Yeah, 3 catches, 70 yards, that touchdown, 16 DK fantasy points on Thanksgiving. So here we go. This is when Jeff Ulrich shines week in and week out. And honestly, Pierce Dietrich, you've kind of become that tight end guy as well. Jeff, it sounds like you're saving at tight end. Just how low are you going?
I mean, we could have just done the whole segment on tight ends. There's like 5 guys you can play under 3K this week. It's amazing. You can go with the double sub 3K tight end stack if you want. I'm going to start with James O'Shaughnessy, our guy from Jacksonville, Emerson. Dan Arnold, IR. James O'Shaughnessy played over 80% of the snaps last week. 8 targets in week 1, 5 targets last week. The Jacksonville Jaguars have given tight ends at least 5 targets in 8 games this year. They're playing the Rams. Really, their pass defense not so good. I could see with Jacksonville being, big underdogs in this game, O'Shaughnessy pushing for 8+ targets again. But look, we've got the Isle of Foster Moreau. We've got Zach, the gentleman Gentry in Pittsburgh, probably going to be picking up a ton of snaps. And we've got Donald Parham Jr. There's too many guys. I'll leave some for Pierce. He's probably got some guy I've never heard of to talk about too. So.
Yeah, very similar to your call last night for the Thursday night showdown, Pierce. Again, I felt like it was a creative player for you. It was hilarious. What do you want to do at tight end? Because there is only one guy who's playing who's at least $6,000. That's Mr. Mandrews.
Yeah, that pick last night wasn't quasi-accurate. It wasn't semi-accurate. It was just bad.
Yeah.
But who can I mention? I mean, Jeff pretty much tackled all the tight ends right there. I literally just got done editing Jeff's article where he goes over every single one of those plays. So check out DK Nation, and you get some more tight end analysis. I'm going to go with O'Shaughnessy. I think you get some low ownership here. No one's going to go to him. No one likes playing Jags. But I think the game script's going to work out well for them. And also, if you're going to punt or take a risk, tight end's fine. You can miss at tight end, and it's not going to hurt you. Whereas if you miss another position, you're dead. So I have no problem going with O'Shaughnessy. And I don't know if I'm going to go back to Moreau. He made me look pretty bad earlier this season, but we'll see.
All right, Alan, how bad is it for you at tight end?
I think all the sharp players like Jeff and Pierce are going to chew up all the value at tight end. Moreau might be 70% owned. I like Gronk for the same reasons I pointed to earlier with Brady. This could be a 4 or 5 touchdown game for Brady, and at least 1 or 2 of those are going to end up in Gronk's belly. I'd say it's a good bet we see the Gronk spike this weekend.
Honestly, this has become, I think, my favorite segment of the week. Every week, it's just to see which tight ends maybe we have possibly never heard of with Jeff and Pierce, or which tight end is going to be just like $500 they're saying to stuff inside your lineup, which $500 is not very difficult to stuff inside your lineup. Guys, that was a really good show, really good stuff. Thanks for helping us out, top and bottom. Thanks, everyone, for watching. So we've got a Mad Slate kicking off at noon, and also do not forget, at high noon on Sunday, leading up to 1 o'clock kickoff, if you got Bally Sports anywhere around the country where you are watching, tune in, because we're going to have the whole squad together talking DFS, sports betting, leading up to kickoff. Also, you can always find us on Twitch and on Twitter and on YouTube. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a safe weekend. We'll see you Sunday.